Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Polish-Ukrainian relations have entered a turbulent phase after President Karol Nawrocki vetoed a bill that would have extended protection and financial support for Ukrainians in Poland. The decision cuts funding for crucial services, including Starlink, and signals a shift towards scepticism about aiding Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Is this a short-term campaign posture or a new long-term direction in Polish foreign policy? Well, to unpack the implications, we're joined by Stuart Dowell. He's political editor of TVP World. Stuart, welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you here. All right, so give us big picture stuff. What are the implications of President Nawrocki's veto of this bill?
Well, if you want the biggest implications in terms of exterior international, probably not that much. Karol Nawrocki's approach to Ukraine has been known for some time. He said a lot about that during the campaign. That he was Ukraine sceptical, but the main tenets of Poland's policy to Ukraine remain the same. What Karol Nawrocki was saying previously was that he doesn't support Ukrainian membership of NATO, doesn't support Ukrainian membership of the EU, but he supports generally Ukraine in the war. He supports sending of arms to Ukraine and supports the role of Poland as a logistic hub, particularly with the airport in Rzeszów. None of that will change. These are the biggest things. We also have to remember that with his objection to NATO and the EU, of course, we all know that Ukraine is almost certainly not going to join NATO in the near, mid, or even far future. And even with the EU, although they're on a path to joining the EU, any vote in Poland, because all member states have to vote on that, will probably happen after Karol Nawrocki ceases being the president, right. Even if that's in 10 years, because the time perspective is that long for the Ukraine.
So as I understand it, the practical implications of this veto are actually rather limited. No change here, is that right?
In the big picture, yes. Of course, what we heard yesterday will be very concerning for the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government will take very seriously the care over its citizens in Poland.
Before I do want to talk about the Ukrainian response in just a second, but before we get there, if that is so, that there is little practical impact, then is Nawrocki doing it as a nod to the right wing in Poland?
Yes, he's doing it to a nod, not just to the right wing. He's doing it as a soldier of polarization. What's very interesting is that Karol Nawrocki is trying to redefine the presidency and garner more executive power for the presidency. What he's trying to, and we can see that in three ways. Not just the vetoes. Of course, Polish presidents have always been able to veto government bills, but the scale of the vetoes, he's vetoed 4 so far in 3 weeks. Andrzej Duda, in the whole time of the cohabitation with the coalition, 18 months, vetoed 6. So he'll soon reach that probably in a very short time. The other element are the bills that he's sending back to the Sejm. He's doing that at a rapid rate as well. It's kind of like imposing his legislative will on the Parliament and the coalition. But I think what's particularly interesting is what he said about his desire that the government should first consult with him over what bills they plan to send to the palace, to the presidential palace, and then he'll say, well, I'm not going to sign this, this and this, but I might sign that, that and that, if you include certain provisions that I approve of. So it really is the president acting as a kind of supercharged prime minister.
Right. And a counterweight to bills that come before him where he believes changes need to be made. Now, what does this mean, this veto? Does it mean that the bill then gets amended and then is re-presented to him, or is it dead, or what happens next?
It depends on the government. They can amend it and send it back, or they can accept Karol Nawrocki's bill, which he's going to send to the government to be passed through the same. Although that's highly unlikely.
Okay.
I think in terms of leaving the 800 plus aside, the other elements of the bill, there's broad agreement on most of those things. As we mentioned, the Skylink, the securing of Ukrainian government data in Poland. Even if these bills are not passed, somebody will foot the bill for these things.
Understood. Now, I do want to talk about the relationship with Ukraine. Initial response from Ukraine, especially about the 800 plus, which is, of course, a payment that the Polish government makes to Ukrainian families for each child born on a monthly basis. Not born on a monthly basis, but the amount is paid on a monthly basis. That is under threat at the moment. What does it mean, and what's Ukraine's response to it? Well,
the 800 plus payments for Ukrainian children paid to Ukrainian parents isn't under threat. What's under threat is the payments to Ukrainian children whose parents aren't working. This is the issue. Of course, if the bill doesn't pass, or amendments to the bill don't pass, then yes, those payments could possibly end. Yeah. Okay,
and what has been the Ukrainian response to this? Because internationally, of course, there are repercussions, there are raised eyebrows, if I can put it like that. Let's start with Ukraine.
Well, what we heard from an official in Kyiv is that they're taking it very seriously, and they'll make a response. We don't know what that response is yet. But of course, this is concerning for Ukraine, not just because of the effects on its citizens in Poland, but because the whole situation with the conflict between the Polish government and the president, as we saw, for example, with one of the effects of it was that Poland didn't get its seat at the meeting in Washington, for example, is that one of its staunchest allies at the beginning of the war is less important now in the international scene. Of course, the Polish government is unwavering in its support for Ukraine. The foreign minister will still make his strong statements at the United Nations, etc. But Poland, as a country, its response has been, its comments and impact has been downgraded. At the beginning of the war, Poland became a kind of fourth pillar in European security, along with Britain, France, and Germany, and it really had to work hard for that. It had to punch above its weight by accepting the 1.4, 1.6 million refugees, with sending MiG 29s and tanks, etc., almost on the first day of the war. And it's a pity that now it's lost that status of being the fourth pillar.
Seems to be taking a back seat to negotiations going forward. That said, as you say, Poland has been at the forefront of support for Ukraine. Looking at it from the perspective of the other three pillars that you mentioned, Germany and so on, UK, does this? What does the vetoing of this bill perhaps indicate to them, whether it's genuine or not? From the outside, it might actually look different to anyone who's not looking at this veto in detail.
Well, I think that from the point of view, as you say, Britain, France, and Germany, there'll be confusion as to who is calling the shots in Poland. And the 800 plus veto issue is part of a wider phenomenon in Poland, as we just discussed. And Poland's partners will be wondering, when it comes to foreign policy, who to listen to. And the result of that will probably be that it won't listen too hard.
Right. So there'll be potentially a knock-on effect on the way that Poland's perceived around the negotiating table. So what should the government do now, the Polish government do now, to limit its exposure to what's going on?
Well, if the priority is Poland's national interest and security, it would be good if it could end the Polish war of polarisation. However, that's not likely to happen.
Right, well, we shall watch very carefully, of course, as always, and we'd love to have you back again, Stuart, to share your analysis with our audience. Thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. As always, lots more coming up. Goodbye.